but good morning. So, the next question is, do you think we're searching for liquidity, or do you think this is leading to a rejection somewhere? Probably searching for liquidity. We've broken this internal movement. Cool. Did we expect that? Yes. Why? We had this high, this low, this high. Traded back in. Where? About the midpoint of this. Cool. We've now broken this high. At some point, yes, we will expect to trade back in to the range. That trade back in doesn't necessarily need to go to the halfway point. It might. There's a strong possibility that you get a bounce off of this first, and then likely we'll trade into this. If it breaks this area, then we might trade back down to here, right? But what we've got now is this shoulder that kind of started this entire down move, where we had our first change in order flow occur. You could argue first break of a protected low in here. Then traded back in, we accumulated, manipulated, and then left. Right? Which is kind of where we're heading to right now. Now this area is about 400 points big. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't trade with a 200 point stop. So what I'm looking for is, number one, can we refine this zone down? We've got pretty important area right near the midpoint. Cool. Right? Do we expect really to have a major decision made here at 660? No. It might be a little speed bump on the way. When do we expect violent moves? We expect violent moves when we're taking liquidity and we have no structure to bounce off of. So what we'll look for is, number one, this is a higher time frame push. So should the market want to trade lower, and you'll know if it wants to trade lower, it will likely be violent movements down and then sharp movements up. People that are caught offside short, that get caught in a little bit of a short squeeze or some covering, those coverings will be violent as we're in a higher time frame shove. And that's only if it wants to trade lower. If it's going to do something like this, where you see even on the 15-minute chart, you've got these attempts to trade lower to these candles. This one actually ended up doing it. You'll see the CRT there. Right? But these failures, we're not really getting the sweep, generally speaking, that then trades back in. We're opening and driving lower. We're opening and driving lower, which is then just being immediately bought up. So these small pullback bull trends that don't form structure are death for shorts. Because you don't really get your trigger. It's tough to take it long in here because you don't really know whereabouts it's going. You could argue in retrospect, this sweeping, you've got a target of this low of 481.75, and then this sweeps below it. Is that 481? No, sorry, 451.25, my mistake. Right? This sweeps below it at 50.50, and then we start grinding up, and you guys will recall when you have a low and you start putting in internal structure, what does that do for that high? Right? So we got 50 seconds until the open. We've got a target above, at least this zone, which would be the ideal area of trading into. And we'll see if we get some sort of change in order flow, but what's more likely is that we let a little bit of direction form and then a break of that direction to take a long out of this, wherever that may be, right? We could be looking at a deep OTE pullback, but that's Unlikely unless we see something that's going to stand out of a pullback. If it wants to trade down to here, we're going to know. Otherwise, we're looking for some sort of structure to form so that we can risk off of it. These are the days where your habits and your systems are really going to be challenged. We've got a swing in here now, yes, right? You could argue that's actually the first one that's formed since here structurally. We had no body closure underneath this. I suppose technically if we were reading this from an advanced microscope, well, even then, that closure was 96.50, that high was 96.50, so this is technically not a swing either. So here we go. As this is a higher time frame, I might be moving back and forth between the 1 and the 5 minute today, just because I don't want to be caught offside on lower time frame manipulation, but I'll likely stay on the 1. I like to glance at the 5 minute for SNDRs on higher time frame moves sometimes. What is this? Drawings loading issue. Lovely. Thank you, TradingView. Did anybody trade anything during London? I'm sure if I looked at the chat that Tom was flying. When isn't he? 6 for 6, man, does not miss. So you'll notice these little, you're looking for targets on the downside, and then you're seeing what happens with them. Right? Ideally, if you get a body closure and you get some sort of a sweep model, that would take you back up to here. But again, drive at the open after a non-structural push upwards. We could be in for some violence. We'll see. First low, you want to see gone, otherwise this isn't taking liquidity, this is just going to run. We've got no sweep of that candle yet. Yes, we've taken liquidity, but be cautious of you guys' trades. Switching to micros today, okay. Yeah, usually what I look for is what's the range of the half hour leading to the open? Is it violent? What was the range of London? I.e., do I expect New York to be consolidation, or do I expect it to be expansion? Right? I don't like this, at least so far, unless that gets defended. You see how we're respecting, at least I don't even think we took the open of that. 73.50, 72.75, so we didn't. right? It seems to be very strong on the bearish side, at least so far. It's these little nuances that allow you to stay out of trouble. And what that comes down to is clarity of your system. Clarity of the system. If I need this candle to open, sweep lower, and then trade through to give me 10, 20 points, whatever I expect, and it doesn't do that, then I'm not involved. And the opportunity cost of not having a system triggered trade is that I miss, this is what, 30 points of drawdown here. You could argue, yeah, you could be going short here, but no thanks. I'm not going to short the bottom of a low, arrogantly expecting it to go down. I don't have the ability to do that in this market. And what's likely is that I never will. No matter how much money I make on a yearly basis, it's not even somebody's stop loss. Right? So far, you've got 8 minutes. Should this candle close anywhere similar to what it's doing or lower, this is what we're talking about, that when she wants to move, you don't need to ask what way she wants to go. Right? When I was playing competitive soccer, that was the theme. You guys have been around me for a while, have heard me say it before, I think, but if you're that good, you don't need to tell anybody. Works similar in trading as well. If you're that good of a trader, you don't need to tell anybody how good of a trader you are. And you'll find that the majority of the successful ones work a lot in silent. Right? But my point is that when the market wants to move, you don't need to ask. Right? And now what you're doing, we can speculate, right? Well, we've got this low. That's the low a day right there. Could be. Absolutely. Right? This is the sweep I was talking about. I'm not sure if anybody grabbed anything here. This is likely going to trade at minimum back into the range. Now, what we have to be cautious of with these higher time frame moves is that it barely trades back into this range rather than delivering to the midpoint or higher. Because this is the higher time frame objective before it wants to trade lower. So cautious of that. This has already achieved its lower time frame objective long, which is great. Reversal Thursday. Could be. Could be. What has me cautious is London. Right? Here's your daily candle right now, which isn't much, in fairness. Right? This is only about, 300 points? Can definitely have more juice in the tank. Right? This last one was 360. We have some in here that were quite substantially higher than that. So in terms of ATR, it's not like we're at maximum. we seem to have an 11 a.m. major reversal algorithm playing this week. And typically I don't like to trade based off of time or algorithms. It's just something that I've anecdotally noticed. But you'll notice this trading right in, barely into the range, not a deep pullback, characteristic of a higher time frame move. And immediately smack back down to this. Right? So if you were long, this is the area you look for in this weather condition, rather than the typical, we're going to trade back up into here. But then again, I don't know how to trade, so you guys will forgive me for the broken clock that's right every now and then, right? Excuse me. So what I'm looking for through all this nonsense can you hear me better now? There was a bit of a storm here yesterday. It looks like it's clear right now, but we'll see. Right, so I'm actually looking at this area here. You've got, let's see where you're, oh my goodness. There's your golden pocket right there. Right? With trend looking for failure, didn't get a sweep or anything in here. And what this allows me is that I don't care necessarily if this runs up. That's a beautiful sweep, yes, but I need something a little bit more to be able to get involved, because I don't want to be caught, right, going long internally. It might hit the imbalance, come down. It might trade up a few points and then come crashing down. I need the liquidity dealt with. And you could argue that this has dealt with the liquidity here, and you might be correct. But I'm looking at the objective. And should this break, we don't need to tell anybody what happens if the retracement back in wants to go. But I don't need to be early. And neither do you. So right now I'm sitting on my hands. And if that means I miss the low of day, then I miss it. I wonder how long Powell's speaking for. I guess we'll find out from the chart, won't we? Lovely. Just feels like it needs to do more to get long here from this area. Could be accumulating just to run, but I think there's more probability in the short, at least right now. Careful if this trades back through this candle. That was a little bit of a liquidity grab, yep. Second sweep inside of an imbalance. And first trade of the day. First target was the low of this candle after sweeping above here. And now I'm looking for this low and a little bit lower. Okay, and break even. The idea with the runner was that if we were going to continue, yes, we failed here, but we hadn't generated anything. This is something similar to what I was looking for along. The absence of that and the grab of liquidity inside of this imbalance shove. First target is the weak candle, which I grabbed the low of. Great. And the range allowed me to take at least 10 points out of it. The expectation would have been lower prices from the imbalance, but failing to go lower from here and then the violent shove through the candle that I expected to be defended. And here we go. Tricky. Might have just got a lot of people out of their shorts before it wants to run lower. Who knows? I'm still looking at this being the higher time frame grab. Yes, this high is weak, but we need to take into account the price action. Now this candle and what we're seeing from price here is the inability to go lower and strong buying pressure, right? So I'm actually looking to see if this high gets taken right now. Now getting involved in here is something else entirely. Right? And what you're looking for is the inability to go lower. So we defended this open very, very good. Right? Swept the top of this. Okay. Traded lower. Seeing some strength. It's a little too unclear for me, but as it stands right now, this was very violent. So I'm not currently in a long, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Speaking of, which is what I was looking for, short. Tricky, tricky, tricky. These kind of plays are a little tricky when you're taking them because you're either right immediately or you're out. But you have to have reason other than just I want this low to taken, right? If you're seeing failure and the inability to go higher, right, then yes, you can look for a short, but ideally you want something taken and then a trigger to come in. And the fact that it was inside of an imbalance with a higher time frame failure had me leaning short. This candle kind of threw a little bit of a wrench into that, fair enough. Just had to go higher. And yeah, I mean, you might argue this, cool, right, lining up with that area of interest, but This wasn't a protected high, so I didn't really consider the possibility of the midpoint or higher being a draw. And now we're seeing the same sort of thing here. Right? You've got your 15-minute, yes, nice sweep. The high above this at 50.50 is an imbalance right here. Shouldn't want to trade into it. Let's make that, I don't know, orange and a dash for you guys or something. Come on. There you go. There's your imbalance. We'll take that 23.6 off. Excuse me. Still no trades on Top Step. I'll wait for something conclusive for a swing. And I'll be honest, I'm liking this lethargic type price action for a swing. We do need more in order to really start the race, but we'll see if she can drop down a little bit more for us. How's you guys' patience levels? We hanging out? Sitting on hands, love it. Okay. Get very, very clear what you're looking for. Oh, gee. What a life. You're seeing internal. Retail calls that a flag. Yes, you've got your 15-minute candle here. This could be a sweep, right? With internal liquidity, but I think that's a trap, personally. But you might get a scalp out of it. All morning. Where are they? Cook and Barr and Williams. Yeah, nobody cares about them. They're kind of the Raphael and the Donatello of the turtles, aren't they? What will be interesting is if we get a grind to this imbalance at the 15 and then continue on our merry way. This high is protected now. Interesting. If you guys are risk on and you're very aggressive, essentially what you're looking for is when the lower time frames in pullback mode, even slowly, And how you can tell that is by you're looking at the open of these candles. Right? Now, typically you would want some sort of a sweep. Right? But you have to be extremely good at looking for your objectives. For example, this might very well just be wanting to trade into this here. Now, you could argue that it's obviously hit the midpoint of that. This consolidation was what delivered this high, which then delivered this low. And you could make the argument that this was actually the larger one that we've hit in, and you'd be right. But I like to refine down to where the market actually made a decision. Right? So we went higher, lower, spiked higher, traded lower. This is still internally grinding upwards until this high put in this downtrend. So this area really started it off. So those little nuances that give you refined zones to be able to risk off of, right? This area can get swept, sure. But if this area breaks, then we're looking at potential trade back into it and then at least higher to our objective. This is just a mess and a little unclear. But there's scalps to be had because it's such a large range. This is like a 30-point range. So if you guys are trading underneath or above key areas of interest, then you're probably doing just fine at the tops and the bottom of the range here. Still no top steps trades. I need to see something a little bit more conclusive to be risk on for a swing. I might consider a swing short depending on what happens above this 50-50 high, should we even get there. But in order to do that, I think we'd have to fail lower a little bit more. So the idea would be if we get sort of this grind, we would spike. But then I wouldn't necessarily be shorting the imbalance anyways, right? I would want to see something literally failing in here, maybe a spike, trade back in with some weak bear bars in the interim of this, or sorry, the midpoint of this range, and then some wicks that are telling us that we want to expand, and that lower time frame expansion would finalize that 15-minute objective. The absence of that, I just think we just grind lower, even within this nonsense. But I need to see something similar to this, which is then defended in the middle of it. One and a half minutes till the turn of the hour. Don't you love it when the market listens to you? Do we have a market maker in here? That's like, hey, that's a good idea. I'll take it. 10 o'clock. What do we get? Only slinging one, mainly because of the lack of conviction. But this is essentially what I'm seeing right now. And we'll see if we get this failure. Didn't like that candle, obviously. We'll see if this takes me out here or not. Ooh, what do we get here? I like that a lot. I've now added my stops underneath. See if we get our shove. Go on, you good thing. Well rejected. Obviously not thrilled about that. Don't want to see an expansionary bearish candle here. We'll see if we get our shove. Excuse me. They're trying. They're trying both ways, looks like. Feels like it wants to dive lower, but I'm still holding on to this, at least right now. We'll see if we get a push through the 30s here. I wouldn't really want it to trade below this current candle here. Right, I want this to run. We haven't broken any of these lower time frame highs, in fairness. There we go, and I'm out. Okay. We'll see. Right, grinding lower. Yes, we can't break down. We're seeing something similar to this. I just expected a little bit more given the higher time frame price action. And if it needed to go down just a little bit more before running, then, so to speak. Yep, we still got our areas lower, so I'm not terribly concerned about missing something in here. If we're going to run, it'll likely give us a decent short opportunity. If we're really going to run, then that'll be conclusive as well. But bang. Right. $55 swing. I was up about $550, I think, on it at one point, but wasn't what I was looking for. But it's the absence of what you're looking for, and this is nasty business. Be interesting to see if this continues or if this is just trading back in to go lower. Right? So I'm expecting a violent shove. Right? I would have actually rather this candle here had something similar to this one, where we're defending this area underneath this candle to trade up into here. But the absence of, so we had our last manipulation, cool. We then had equal lows, which I'm not thrilled about. Oh, excuse me, this lingering cold is really frustrating. But we're attempting to rally here, we can't, which is the concern because we're in a higher time frame shove. So when she's ready to go up, similarly to when she's ready to go down, we don't need to ask. And you could argue that this was actually a beautiful short, which it probably was. I was just looking a little bit higher for the imbalance for the confirmation. Right. You see a 15-minute. Yes, we swept underneath, but no trigger on the 15. Similar to your 5, just grinding lower until this death, and we'll see what comes of it. Also, morning, Burr. I don't think I said hi to you yet, man. What's going on? I don't think you've been... Have you been in one of our marble race community days yet? It brings out my inner child. It's phenomenal. But just so you guys all know, excuse me, we have 5 TPTs that we're giving away next Thursday. Let's make sure you guys are around for market review, if possible. We might do an early market review as well. Just so our European friends can take in on the festivities. Rigged against me. I don't think I've placed higher than... Actually, I think I did place once higher than 13th last time. That was a rare opportunity. Midpoint of this wick, but this wick hasn't been responsible for anything yet, so I'm still sitting on my hands, but it looks like there was a decent scalp to come out of it. All the early shorts getting wrecked. All the early longs that didn't take it off in here also getting wrecked. See what ends up happening with this. Right. Flat top here that coincides with 24, fair enough. Obviously a lot of volume in this area here. Wouldn't be surprised if we traded back up into it. Something like this, and then maybe trade back down, and then if this fails, then we can trade higher. But what's more likely is that this low hasn't been dealt with yet. Sitting on my hands patient, as there hasn't been a lot that I've seen that I've really liked this morning. Characteristic of higher time frame direction without structure. We have one protected, we have one protected high here, traded lower. This is all contained within this candle. So still nothing. This is all one swing from here. If we get a body closure above, well, actually we've technically got a pullback here. This was our last structural bear bar, but the problem, right, because this one is just manipulation, it actually closed within this one, which is a little tricky, but low probability as we've got an inside bar being our last structural one. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But regardless, what that means typically is that we pull back into the area of interest. Which, lo and behold, should be 24. But this failure here, I didn't take that to trade back up, obviously. Right, so what we're looking at structurally by that token is something similar to this. Should we get this failure, maybe it'll be here, but that's asking quite a bit out of the 15-minute chart right now. Right? We might get a failure in here that takes us lower. That's also possible. Oops. But I'd be curious to see if there's a change in order flow that occurs here. We're getting some nice short price action inside of our SNDR area. Right? But respecting the opens of these candles. Which isn't necessarily a cause to get out of short, but it's certainly a warning sign that we want to see acceleration to the short side. We want to see finished business and gone when we're taking our trades. And then we find the areas that should provide sharp price action movement, and we want to get involved. For example, say we had this short here, right? You had a violent movement down and you could feel the order flow change, right? Where the market decided to spool lower. Those are the ones we want to be involved in. See how it's moving a little bit quicker, at least right now? You want that to continue on the short side. We want clear objectives, which makes for clear trading and decision making. We are quiet today. Everybody's watching the ticks. All right. All right, all right. Very much a, oh, we're going down. Oh, no, we're not. Oh, we're going up. No, we're not. Right? We're in a range. sideways to down type range. Why? Because London and Asia were a rocket ship. And now we've got a lethargic pullback in the New York AM session. Right? We've got our areas lower. We've still got about 40 points, 30 to 40 points. Right? Your OT yeet is way down here. Quick scalps, beautiful. Beautiful. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. You see these little speed bumps along the way. You could argue this one cool, right? But we've got this pocket here and then our prior range, which is all possible. Just a lot of patience. A lot of patience. And then we look back in the afternoon and we go, why wasn't I just shorting every pop? And in reality, we should be on failure, right? What's the trend right now? Bearish. Right? Or you're sitting patiently and you're waiting for your 15-minute or your lower time frame significant change in order flow. And when that moves, we'll be in line with our higher time frame direction, which is awesome. Beautiful, Zen. Each pop, that's right. Right? And you see these failures, now you're looking to see if there's a change in personality or not. Change in personality would be we don't this didn't really deal with that. If we would have, say, swept this candle and closed above it in a bearish trend, that's not what you want to see from bearish price action. Right? Sweeping below this, do we deal with the open here? Do we fail above the high? Or do we close well above? These different little nuances that give us a lot of information that everybody else deems as noise. Yeah, the OTE, and if we're drawing it properly, then yes, absolutely. Yeah, it failed underneath here, but right, so sweeping underneath this candle, target, open. And now you're looking for potential failure up here, which then takes you underneath the next candle. But until we get some major failure, we traded into this area of interest and we saw failure out of it, at least so far. Until we break this high, there's no change in order flow, in my opinion. Those of you guys that like SBS, I think you've got this low, this low, this high, this low, breaks the high, breaks the low, trades back in, maybe. But all I'm really seeing is this candle and then basing underneath this. But in reality, you guys will find bottoming patterns where, number one, we know how trends end. Sorry, fair enough, this was a little climactic. And it got immediately bought up, but it generated nothing. Yeah, you've got from here, right? That's beautiful. You could argue the same sort of thing here. And they line up with your area that was responsible really for significant price movement, right? So you've got your area of interest, these two lines, inside of your SNDR. And that's your scalp. Beautiful trading agentess. This is a scalper's paradise. Well, I suppose if you were swing short, you'd be fine too. But people that are scalping significantly are taking longs and shorts in this, and they're making significant bank. What do we get here? So what you're seeing is major exchanging of positions on the way down here at an institutional level, creating these ranges. And we'll know when the trend is done. And it's that analysis alone that keeps you from confirmation long. The problem is when it comes, it's going to be very difficult to get a hold of. Buy stop entries can help with that, yes, but the absence of what you want to see keeps you on the right side of the trend as much as getting to see what you want. Does that make sense? Goodbye. So we can look through it on a microscope. There's failure. It's continuing to fail. Right? But, like, we're zooming out here. Have a look. When we're ready to go, we're going to go. And if we don't see gone, then we're not gone. It's that simple. Their job as institutional market makers is to make it a million times more confusing. Why? Because then they get everybody piling in, which generates what? Liquidity, which does what? Makes for violent moves lower. Violent moves lower. Finally dropping probably into our pocket here. We'll see. So if you're finding yourself taking a lot of longs out of this and getting a little frustrated, not suggesting that anybody is, by the way, just looking at this from we tend to have so much information and so much skill set that we develop through hours of practice that we see many reasons to go long and many reasons to go short. We can see both. Which means actually that you're right on the cusp of a breakthrough, which is a fantastic place to be because you're seeing both sides of the argument. Right? And that's why, win rate is one of the most overrated statistics in the market. And I think if you went to 10 profitable traders and you asked them, would you rather have a 60% win rate and make 100K a month or a week, and 75% win rate and make half? It comes down to expectancy. Comes down to expectancy. How much do you expect to make per 10 trades based off of your system? Yeah, characteristic of a higher time frame move, right? Which is really quick because we're dropping into our area. When we're ready, we're gone. Gone, right? When we're ready, where was it? I think it was last week. Chop, 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 chop. See you later. That's your higher time frame move. Ending in what? Climax. You don't need to be early. Three, two, one. What do we get here? Where she's gonna go, she's gonna go. See how orders are speeding up? We don't want that first imbalance to provide significant price movement, or we go lower. We'll see what happens in 20 seconds. This is similar to what I want to see. Let's see what we get. I need a little bit more of a lift on this candle though. Looks like a little bit lower. I did take a trade out of here, and when the imbalance hit, I took a small loss on that. I liked this sweep. Not really what I wanted to see out of the bearish candle, but got my sweep. Just spooling lower, at least so far. Could be 280. I don't like that we didn't sweep underneath here. I like this consolidation climactic move, right? But I'm not liking the response, at least so far. Yeah, definitely shorts had the afternoon tea, didn't they? Nice trade, Stallone. Awesome, man. You don't need to be early, just right. In order for this to be the final move, ideally what we want to see is some strong buying come in and then run them out. So I kind of want this push to sustain and then run out those people that are getting long in here. Which is awesome, right? Yes, we didn't sweep. Yes, we're at the 61.8. This is exactly the area that I want. And now we see what happens with this fractal. Ideally, we get a rejection somewhere in here and then a trade back in, running everybody out. I did take a trade from that into this area, but I'm not convinced terribly with the long side just yet. I'd love to see these guys run out into this pocket a little bit more, but I want to see that buying pressure. Awesome. Now we'll see what happens on this candle. If we can defend it versus trading below. Really good sustained buying pressure. Love it. Just enough pain for everybody that was long to want to hop back in after taking their scalp off. Right, this flat top at 46 maybe, but we're right into this pocket here, which ideally would be the area that would send us down underneath this low. What zone I have? So what I do is I draw from the area that started it all. Right, so yes, this low, this was sort of chop. This was the grind down that really started the spike. So I draw the OTE from there. Beautiful 15-minute sweep, at least so far, into that area of interest, providing the first beautiful scalp of the day. Ideally, I should be trailing these lows, but I was expecting a lower time frame shove given how we've been lower time frame shoving. And we're just seeing us spool higher now. Good defense of that open. We'll see what happens here. Whoop. See if she unwinds here. But I'm already break even at 62 anyways. She's either going to dump back down for our move or break even. And I'll go over why in 1 sec. And break even it is. Might come back down. We'll see. Not easy to get involved at all, right? We had our spike. You could have argued like we had multiple consolidations that led to climactic action. The last one being this one. Into our OTE, yep. Didn't get our sweep. 15-minute looks like it's sweeping lovely. And I can't believe that I actually mis-executed this short trade. Right? So I was looking at this area of interest, specifically this pocket of PA. And I saw a nice change in here where we started going sideways, and then we spiked up into it, and then I liked the inability to trade back up into the mid-60s here. So that was more of an order flow with location short, with the idea of trading back down into this. Now I still expect us to run this low. We'll see what happens with this fractal. But this was exactly what I wanted out of the short, and obviously my execution needs some work. The short side still. Nice trades in. Right, didn't get my sweep, so I wasn't thrilled about the delivery of it, but there we go. Right? So dropping in, not really what we wanted to see out of a violent move out. Swept inside the imbalance. Quick little short scalp here. Looking for this low. Want to see some acceleration through these mid-20s here. Ideally, if it goes, we then would take this one as well. Stop above this candle. Don't want to see that fail. Yes, this is our area of interest, fair enough. That started this all. But I'm still thinking that if we're going to bottom on the 15-minute chart. Obviously take it out quickly. If we're going to bottom on the 15-minute chart, we should see something a little bit similar to that, at least some sort of failure sweep. Let's see what ends up happening with this. That's a strong movement up. Dangerous to short from, but probably decent probability. 15 minutes until the 8 o'clock reversal. Sorry, 8 a.m. my time, 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll see if we get the same thing as the rest of the week. Maybe. Love this volatility. Oh, they need to recover that right away. Good recovery so far. This is where things get tricky in the middle of this internal price delivery, where you get your trigger and then it actually zooms up before failing. Right? And it looks like a beautiful short opportunity in hindsight. Yeah, and that's usually what happens, right? Our protected high is like, technically it's this one, but that's a very advanced way of reading it. In theory, you might even suggest it's just this. Now, not every discipline will count these as swings, depending on where you learn market structure from. Some are a little bit more discretionary than others. Technically, you have a swing here with the body closure above this candle. And then your next body closure was actually this one underneath it, which nothing closed above. And the one that closed underneath this was actually here, which we got a pullback from. Tricky short, not sure if anybody took that scalp. I'm sure H&S was looking at the, oh, wrong way. H&S was looking at this. And the rest of you guys that like your OT eats. Beautiful, man. Here we go. Ooh, violent. Violencia. See what we got. Not in a rush to take this one off. Tom. Not in a rush to take that one off. Now, failing above here might take us back down. We'll see. You got 20 seconds in this candle. But, oh, baby. Let's not get too excited now. But this is why we get up in the morning, yes? I took one off above here. And I will add that back on happily if I see some sort of failure. Ooh. Let's see what we get. What do we get here? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. I don't like the short idea of not even trading back into this. Excuse me. We'll see. Thinking 250, like this area. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean the 1 minute area here. Typically, I want to see the 1 minute SNDR kind of break, or at least be tapped into relatively soon. You've got, I suppose you've got a little area here on the 15 minute. Certainly mark that up. This is no bueno after yesterday. But I really like the bounce off of this area. Right, so took some, rest got hit break even, unfortunately. Was looking for some sort of failure in here to then add back on a position. But the absence of buying pressure, no bueno. $250 the manipulation leg, love it. Somebody was watching the MTA analysis yesterday. Here's another sweep coming in. Ideally, we target this area at 77. If you guys are taking 10 points, this is basically what you're looking for. Right? Bang. Up to there. Just again and again and again. And you see, we're now creating 1 minute lethargic movements. Whereas this was kind of nonsense chop that eventually just did this. Fair enough, but there's your 250 Stallone. Five minutes till the turn of the hour. Looks like that 11 a.m. reversal. See how it's speeding up here? Starting to get very violent and volatile. Don't need to be early. Draw on your own experience with what you see happening. I want to see these orders. I want to see manipulation of them. Right? You see how we're violently bouncing in here? I want to see some sort of flush and then go, ideally to the downside to take a long up. Don't get caught hoping for that last 10 points of a downtrend. Praying to the market gods. Yikes. What we got going on here? Oops. $216, $215, what do we got? 203-ish, midpoint. I don't want to get into the habit of drawing so much stuff. My goodness. Look at that, 30, 40 points. Yellen starts in 20. That was climactic. Ideally, we're looking for some sort of failure that now takes us back into here. But we'll see. Thanks, NQ. Yeah. Excuse me. This was violent, for sure. And the name of the game today was, if she's ready to go down, if she's ready to go down, right? Who could have predicted this? Oh yeah. Title of her those of you guys that watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you know. She is violent. Might get a little relief rally here. Order flow looks kind of nice. From 20. Ooh. That was another smack. We'll see. Man, oh man. Here's the turn of the hour. No, we want to see it have an expansionary candle just yet. Still no valid pullback. Still grinding lower. That looks promising. Let's see if we get any follow through. And this will be my last trade before I got to run the little one to school. If we get significant buying, then I'm willing to hold this one. First speed bump is your SNDR. Don't want to see major reaction from it. Want to see what happens when we get to the 20s here. I'm just targeting something inside at least right now. Basically looking at this. Top step swing, at least for the middle. I got my drop into this area and a sweep. So take the trade through. Right? But what I liked was a lot of buying that came in here looking for this internal high. But you have to know exactly what you're looking for. I didn't get anything in here. Not a thing. So if it's not what I want to see, I'm not involved. Period. Good relief coming in. Needs to accelerate through this. All right. I will leave you guys with that. And I'm going to run away. Hopefully you guys stayed safe, at least in the interim. There was some nice trades in here. Trailing aggressively. Okay, like it. Right? We've got a beautiful 15-minute sweep that's now come in here. So ideally, we target up here in the 300s. Where this zone came from was... where was that yesterday? That was this area of interest from yesterday. Excuse me. Looks beautiful in hindsight, doesn't it? All right. Trade safe, you guys. And I will catch you guys later on.